Good morning. Thank you, Roberta, for those extraordinarily gracious remarks. If I have ever in the past taken a position against falsehood, I need to rethink that position. While vacationing on the rocky coast of Maine a few years ago, I was taken to visit a lifelong painter of the sea. Lamenting the beastly, intolerable difficulty of capturing its rolling swells, the painter railed, "If only it would stand still, just for a minute." The sea did not oblige. At the American Law Institute, we have a similar problem. If the law would only stand still, our task would be easier. But the law is not more accommodating than the sea. Even if the law would agree to stand still, that would go only so far to help us in our task. While the law as a whole does not stand still, there are parts that do, at least for a time. The trouble is, while they stand still, we change. Our society changes. Its understandings and its aspirations change. Voices which in the past were not given a podium from which to express needs and dissatisfactions eventually come to be heard. Answers which in the past were unquestioningly accepted as wholly satisfactory become unsatisfactory, at times even shamefully so. Before I go on for too long about the difficulties of our task at the ALI, I should perhaps have started with the first difficulty, the difficulty of understanding just what the task is. The founding committee of the Institute deplored the uncertainty and complexity of our law. The charter they created speaks of a purpose to promote the clarification and simplification of the law and its better adaptation to social needs. We meticulously undertook restatements and statements of principles. What is a restatement all about? Is it to tell what the law is? Yes, in part, but only in part. Is it to tell what the law should be? Again, yes, in part, but what is the meaning of should be? What the law should be from whose point of view? Now, if the world followed Polonius's advice, for example, they would be neither borrowers nor lenders, and we may soon be there, unless those, that is, unless President Obama can persuade those who were placed on earth so that they might lend to fulfill that God-given trust. If there were no lenders and no borrowers, there would, of course, be no need for a law on lending. But once there are lenders and borrowers, they are likely to have different points of view on what the law on lending should be. So what then? Does it follow that there is no such thing as a neutral desideratum, no such thing as a fair and efficient balance of the interests of lenders and borrowers? Some contend the only useful perspective is whose shoes you stand in. At the ALI, we reject that notion. For most questions, not all questions, but for most questions, there are objective reasons, sound reasons, grounded in fairness and efficiency for preferring one rule over another. It's not always easy to know what rule is to be preferred, and when one thinks one knows what the rule should be, finding the words to express it correctly so as to produce a desirable solution for all types of cases is devilishly difficult. In other instances, when no single answer trumps the competition, a valuable product of our work, at times perhaps even more valuable than producing black-letter rules of law, is the exposure and evaluation of reasons that might support competing views. Furthermore, the fact that some problems may not yield a single best answer doesn't mean that there aren't a host of bad answers available to any question, and we judges have a way of landing on those. In our common law tradition, the law develops oddly. In some significant part, the law constantly improves itself as courts that understand the problems perceive and resolve ambiguities, cut back on prior overstatements, and rethink solutions to previously unperceived difficulties. At the same time, the law constantly deteriorates as judges who do not sufficiently understand the particular problem they face, and that condition will certainly afflict every single judge at some time or other. Woodenly and unthinkingly quote and apply prior verbal formulations to situations they were never intended to cover. A huge, huge benefit of the Institute's work is to improve the odds that we judges, laboring endlessly like ants on the creation of the common law, will line up in the former column rather than the latter. The ALI receives its share of criticisms. Some of them have merit and are worth listening to. And we do listen, and we do our best to correct those problems. Among the criticisms that has been that we drew our membership excessively from prestigious schools, large firms, and persons, mostly male, ensconced in power and privilege. There was truth in it. We needed a wider representation of voices in our deliberation. We addressed it seriously. We have made and continue to make major efforts to diversify. You can all help in the continuation of that goal. Another observation has been that a larger part of the membership ought to have more opportunity to participate more directly in the production of Institute texts. That made good sense, and it has been addressed constructively, first with consultative groups, and now with Roberta's exploration of fuller opportunity for members to participate by electronic communication. In somewhat different terms, we are accused of being a self-appointed elite. If the charge of elitism refers to our efforts to attract smart people who care deeply about improving the law, that charge is true, but that is the strength rather than a weakness of our institute. And as for self-appointed, that also is true. No one asked us to do this difficult work, but no one is compelled to read what we write, much less pay any heed to it. And any who believe that they would do the job better are free to self-appoint, just as we have done. The respect our work receives will ultimately depend on the respect it earns. Today, at the Institute, we perch on the shoulders of giants who preceded us. Learned Hand, Carl Llewellyn, John Minor Wisdom, Roger Traynor, Herb Wexler, Henry Friendly, Charlie Wright, just to name a few. The wide attention and respect our work attracts today is due in no small part to their huge contributions. Together with the respect they bequeathed to us comes the obligation on us to do our best to continue to earn the world's trust in the value of the Institute's work. I submit to you that the Institute's task, difficult as it is even to understand, is very much worth doing. Law is important. Law is fragile. Clarifying the law, helping it to develop in directions of greater fairness and efficiency in a rapidly changing world is a huge and difficult undertaking and very much worth the vast commitment of effort it requires. Welcome all of you to the 86th annual meeting of the American Law Institute, and invoking the words of Maurice Sendak's immortal Max, let the wild rumpus start.